Okay, I am back. So fingers crossed I've got this correct now, and you can now see my screen for my best year yet. I'd really love it if some of you could let me know that that is all working okay for you right there. Hopefully some of you can see it and tell me that the screen is sharing no problem at all for you. Just give you a moment. I'm super excited to be sharing along with you here at the Phoenix Rising Summit. That's a pretty exciting that we've got our book live and everything is going along super well, which is fantastic. Just checking that that's live. I can see some comments there, which is awesome. Brilliant. So hopefully you can share the screen now, which is great. Brilliant. Awesome. Thanks, Christy, for letting me know. That's fantastic. Okay, so welcome along to your best year yet. Creating your best year is all about taking aligned action. And the reason that that's so important is that without taking aligned action, we end up having to work too hard. Aligned action is really the process of directing your time, your focus, and your energy and creating what you really want. I know it's really easy for us to think about what everybody else tells us success is or what it should be, but I don't want that for you. I want you to create your version of success, and so I really want you to take beautiful aligned action with that. So we're going to talk about 3 really simple steps that are going to get you to make 2022 your best year yet. And these are all simple processes that I use with my clients inside my programs. In fact, these are processes that I go through myself. In fact, right now I'm actually away from home, and so that means that I have the opportunity to stop and spend some time and go through these processes. So this weekend, while I'm away by myself, while I am missing my family, that I will get the opportunity to do this reflection, alignment, and integration in terms of my year for 2021, the reflection piece, and obviously then creating, aligning, and integrating for 2022. So here's the thing. So often we don't think about the lessons that we've learned in the past. And the piece that I often see people miss is to see what the footsteps have taught us. The past is where we learned the lesson. The present's where we're going to reflect on it, and the future is where we're going to apply this lesson. And if we don't learn the lessons that have happened to us in 2021, then we're very likely to repeat them in the future going forward. So it's really important that you don't skip this step. And the reason it's really important that you don't skip this step is that I want to make sure that you bring awareness to your learnings of 2021 and make sure that you are making the right changes so that in 2022, history won't be repeating itself. Because there's nothing worse than feeling a little bit like year after year in your business and your life is Groundhog Day. So before we get started and we jump into all those beautiful steps, I want to talk to you a little bit on how you get the best return on investment on this masterclass. And when I talk return on investment, I'm talking about investment of not just money, because I know that you're coming along without investing any money to this masterclass, but what you are investing is your time. And for me, that's your most precious resource. And I want to make sure that you get a great return on investment. So there are just 3 really simple steps in this. I want you to invest in yourself. That means I want you to stop, be present, turn off your notifications, and actually engage in this process today so that you can get the most out of it. The second thing is that I want you to do the work. I'm going to come back to this a couple of times throughout the call this afternoon. And the reason for that is nothing works unless you work it. I can give you all this great theory and information and background stuff about what you can do to make 2022 your best year yet. But if you don't take it away and do the work yourself, it's all going to go to custom. And then secondly, it's the magic's not in the plan. You've actually got to take some physical action on it. So when you leave today, I want you to go away and do the work. I'm going to give you a series of tasks that you can go away and do. I highly recommend you go and do them. And then come 2022, you take physical action on that plan, because that's going to get you where you want to be without all the hard work. I don't know about you, but I've got a few ambitious goals, which is great. I love having ambitious goals, but the bigger and more ambitious our goals are, the more things we're going to come in up with that are challenges or problems that you're going to encounter. The bigger your goals are, the bigger the problems. So if you've got ambitious goals, you need to expect to grow. There is a requirement for you to grow to meet bigger and better goals. So I want you to stop seeing those challenges and problems as barriers to getting to your goal, and reframing that as part of your journey. When they start popping up and they start really challenging you, that's exciting, because that means that the goals are getting closer. So embrace those and move through them, because it's a sign, a sure sign that you're growing. Part of the big step that we're going to talk about as we reflect today is we really need to move away from relying on our conscious mind only. Why? Because there's a whole lot more going on upstairs than there is just the conscious bit. I want to make sure that you rely on all of it. And the reason I want you to rely on all of it is because if you just rely on your conscious mind only, you're only getting 5% of your potential reality. Taking the time to integrate how your subconscious mind works into your planning and then ultimately your action taking is going to give you access to the other 95%. And this is going to mean that we're going to have to challenge and change the repetitive programming you've been giving your brain potentially for years. And this is why the reflection step when it comes to setting yourself up for your next, I'm talking about next year, because obviously in late October and as we roll into November, this is when we should be planning for the next calendar year. But actually you need to be doing this piece of reflection way more often than that, because if we're not bringing reflection to that repetitive programming that's going on in your brain, then we don't have time to shift and integrate and get our subconscious mind to help us get to where we want to be. So repetitive programming means that just thoughts and labels that you've given yourself or potentially other people have given you, that you've said over thousands and thousands of times, have become beliefs. Why is that important? Because those pieces of information that we have given to our subconscious mind have become rules for it to follow. The science behind this is that there's a little part in your brain called the reticular activating system. It's really sort of at the back of your skull is the best way to describe it, because you can't see me. I'm tapping the back of my head, but you can't see me. So it's called the reticular activating system, and that piece of your brain is there to filter all the information that you get on any given day, and you filter it through your beliefs. So if I believe I'm going to be a great mum, then my subconscious mind will show me all the beautiful evidence of me being a great mum. If I am going to be a great salesperson, it will show me all the evidence of me being a great salesperson. But the converse is also true. If I've told my subconscious mind that I'm a terrible salesperson, or that I always just get by, or that money is bad, my subconscious mind will just do exactly what it's told and only give me evidence to back that up. It doesn't want us to be wrong, so it's really important that we're really clear about this. Now, I'm not looking for perfection. Doesn't exist as far as I'm concerned. But secondly, it's a really awkward standard to ever reach. So what we're looking for is the tipping point. I'm not looking for you to change all your underlying beliefs and make them all aligned with exactly what you want for for your life and your business now and in the future, I want you to think about getting to 51%. I want you to think about awareness, because when you get to this 51%, everything's gonna start shifting for you. And you'll know when you get there, you'll feel it. The important part that we need to think about, and why this reflection is so important, is that we are consciously, and with the conscious part of our brain, we are constantly planting seeds into the subconscious, which then filters all the information that we have. You are constantly planting these seeds, and you want to make sure that they are the ones you want to sprout. And by that I mean plant the things that you want to see more of. Reflection is a time for you to deliberately tend the garden of your mind, right? If you don't deliberately look after your garden, and I am not a gardener, so my garden is very free. And if you don't look after your garden, you're going to get weeds. Your mind's the same. You need to deliberately plant what you want to see more of, and you want to weed out the things that you don't want to see. And this reflection process is going to help you. What's going wrong with our goal setting and planning? Well, a number of different things. You've been setting some goals that have no why behind them, like I want to make $1,000 a week or $1,000 a day, without understanding why that's important to you. You've set too many goals is the second mistake I see. People with like 300 goals and wondering why they're only getting to a few of them. When you split your focus that broadly, and that's a gross exaggeration, right? But even with 10 goals, when you split your focus like that, it's incredibly hard to get traction on anything, because you only have a finite amount of time, focus, and energy to make that happen. The third one is that you don't believe your goals are possible for you. Remembering that I said that your brain filters all its information through what you believe. So if you believe that your goals are impossible for you, then guess what? You're going to be right. The fourth one is that you're way too attached to the timeline that you've set out. We don't have to be in such a hurry all the time. Letting go of the really strict timelines will help us to take more aligned action. It doesn't feel so hard if we don't have this kind of hard stop on everything. That's not to say that we shouldn't put a date on things. It's just to say that we don't want to focus on how close we're getting to the timeline and that we're not getting the results. And then the last big mistake that most of us get caught up in is that you got really caught up in the how. So whenever I'm working with someone and I say, awesome, so this is your goal, you want to achieve this inside your business, they'll go, awesome. So how I'm going to do that is da-da-da-da, whoa. There is so many different ways that you could achieve your goal. You don't have to be in a rush to get there. Let's get everything else right before we think about what is the actual work that we have to do. And so much of those 5 mistakes people are making when they are setting their goals or doing their planning is that they have forgotten this very important missing step. And that is to reflect. It's really important that we take time out to have a look and see how far we've come, and then be mindful of the lessons that we have learned. And this is really important, because if we skim over those lessons, there's every chance that we're going to repeat them. We have to be completely honest and transparent with ourselves during this process. If you're not going to be honest and transparent, don't even bother about reflecting. If we're going to hide behind our ego or our morality, we are not going to be able to see the lessons that 2021 has given us. But just a cautionary tale around this. Sometimes, particularly if you're one of my beautiful overachievers, and I know that there's some of you out there, just a gentle reminder to be kind. You are always doing the best you can right now with what you know. And as you know better, as you learn more, then you will be able to do better, right? So be kind and gentle as the emotions come up as you're doing this reflection process, and allow it to release it. We don't want to hang on to it. And so letting the emotions come and go as we go through those lessons will mean that they don't need to come back up again and again and again as we get into 2022. So there's two really key components. The first one is we need to celebrate. Like, you really need to take the time to stop and look at all of the amazing things that have happened in the last 12 months, that have happened in 2021. Why? Because when you go, hey, we did that and it was awesome, and let's celebrate it, and let's, it might even be as simple as giving yourself a pat on the back or a high five, or in our house, we sometimes do crazy dance parties to celebrate something that's awesome. Then my body and my brain learn what I want more of. And it also goes, hey, that feels good. Let's do that again. The other reason that celebration is super important is it draws your focus. And where you focus is where you're going to put your energy. So that's important because we want more of these successes. And so our focus goes there. Then we're going to put more of our energy, which means it's going to get more of our time, and it's going to get more of our action. And ultimately, that which we appreciate will expand. We're going to get more of it. So it's really important in this reflection process to celebrate the last 12 months. And then the second part of it is releasing the past. And I don't know about you, but we've all had those experiences where we kept talking about, keep telling the stories over and over again of the things that didn't go the way we wanted. The things that didn't go to plan, the places where someone did us wrong, the places where we were the survivor or the victim. It's really important that we release that. Continuing to tell those stories over and over again will just drag them forward into the next year, into the next week, into the next month, into the next period of your life. So we really want to make sure that we release it, take the lessons, but release the story, because it will hold you back. It's not in alignment with the business and life you are now creating. And you and I both know that the business and life you're now creating is a much bigger version of what you had before. It's a much, you're a better version of you. You're becoming a better version of you day by day by day. And so the business and life you can create today is very, very different from past you. Now, reflecting on these mistakes and reflecting on these things that didn't go quite to plan is not reliving them. It's taking the time to reframe them into lessons. And I love this quote. And if you haven't read this book, I highly recommend you do. You'll know Napoleon Hill from Think and Grow Rich. But his book, Outwitting the Devil, is phenomenal. In fact, I actually really recommend you listen to the Audible book, purely because they do the voices, which is super cool, but very, very clever. Definitely worth a read. And this quote comes from that book. There comes with every experience of temporary defeat, every failure, and every form of adversity, the seed of equivalent benefit. That doesn't mean that the benefit's going to show up right away. It means that we've planted the seed of equivalent benefit, and by nursing and nurturing that seed, it will grow into a beautiful series of benefits that will come for you from those lessons. So how do I reflect, Sarah? It's all well and good you telling me that I need to look back on 2021 and figure out what are the lessons, what are the things I need to celebrate, and take that into 2022, and it will make my year better. It's all very well you telling me this, but how do I do that? So I've got a series of questions that I think are really fabulous. I've been collecting them over the years. I started off with a small number and it's grown over time through different study that I've done, or reading that I've done. And these are a series of a few of them. I've got more that I share with my clients. I've only got a little bit of time today, so we're just going to go through a few of them. So in 2021, I want you to look back and go, what am I most proud of? What have I achieved? What have I done? Where have I been? Who have I met? What am I most proud of in 2021? What are the things I had to overcome? We know that we're still living in a worldwide pandemic, which is the bigger, larger macro, I guess, environment that we're in, but we all still have day-to-day life stuff that's showing up as well. So what have you overcome this year? It could be health, it could be relationships, it could be business changes, career changes. What have you overcome? How have you grown? Because I just know you have, because the version of you are today is different from the version you were yesterday, let alone the rest of the year. What have you created? I know for the authors of Phoenix Rising this year, one of the beautiful things that they managed to create this year was that book and the experience that we've had of doing that. It doesn't have to be a book. It could be anything. What have you created this year? What did you intend to do this year and you haven't done it yet? What have you intended to do this year and you haven't done, that you have done? Well, let's be real. You're 80% of the way there. Close enough's good enough, right? What are some of the mistakes, challenges, and obstacles that you've experienced in the last 12 months? And here's the magic for this bit. That first half was all about, mostly all about reflecting and looking at the wins. This is about the reflection piece. Write down those mistakes, challenges, and obstacles. And then I want to know, what did you learn from each of these? This is the reframing piece. And how did each of those lessons serve you and make 2021 a really important year for you? Now, you don't have to take all of them right now, but which ones from 2021 are you committed to really understanding and using to grow and go forward rather than repeat them again? And then of those mistakes, challenges, and obstacles, what are you committed to letting go of from 2021? And then, if you were going to describe last year, we're not quite there yet, but 2021, the last year of 2021, with a single word or phrase, what would it be? And if you were going to give the last year a rating out of 10, what would it be? And then once we've kind of got a really clear picture of how 2021 looked, I want to know, based on what you've learned, based on what you've celebrated, based on all the amazing things you've done, what word or phrase is going to represent, what word or phrase is going to represent 2022? That's what happens when you're working with dates. They all get muddled up. And why are you going to use that word or phrase in 2022? Step 2, now we need to align. So again, we go back to that whole, we learned the lesson in the past, and now we want to apply this lesson in the future. We're going to take the reflections that we just talked about in step 1, and we're going to start using them. You're going to identify what matters most to you, what you want out of 2022, and we're also going to talk a little bit about the beliefs and the stories that you need to make that happen. I said right back at the beginning that I was going to come back to this point over and over again. Nothing works unless you work it. I cannot highlight enough the need to do the work. The magic's going to happen tonight when you sit down and answer those reflective questions. Today, right now, is for you to understand the process, understand the reasons why that we do this process, and then to ask any questions. So if you have got any questions, which I didn't tell you at the beginning, pop them in the comments and I will come back to you either in the comments later if you're watching the replay, or if you're here on the live right now, pop them in and I will answer them as I go through the presentation. So remember how I said our conscious mind only gives us about 5% of our reality. Most people are focused solely on the action I need to take to get the result, right? So what do I need to do to get the result? Most people I work with, Sarah, I want to make more money. Sarah, I want to have more time. What are the tactical things I need to do to make that happen? And then they wonder why it doesn't work or it feels really hard. This is like muscling through or hustling through it. And it takes too much time. And we all know that time's our most precious resource. So it's really important that we understand that we don't want to have to muscle through things. It works for a little while, but it's really not sustainable. And ultimately you get tired and burnt out. So I want to move from being solely focused on to what actions do I need to take and what results will I get from that, and move to focusing on the whole thing, the whole experience. So 5% is what I want and why I want it, the result that I'm going to get. And 95% is actually this back end of how we take our actions. What drives our actions are our thoughts and feelings. So I think something about it, I feel something about it, and that drives me to take action or inaction, as the case may be. So if you're procrastinating, there's some thoughts and feelings about that are stopping you from going forward. And the stories are what drive the thoughts and feelings. Now, insert any word here. Some people call them beliefs, some people call them stories, some people call them mindset, all different language for the same thing. Whatever we believe drives our thoughts and feelings, which drives our action, which is what gets us our belief. And if we don't have alignment across the whole journey from our stories to our results, then we will not get the results we want. And people say, oh, it's self-sabotage, I'm self-sabotaging myself, I'm procrastinating, I'm overwhelming, when actually what it truly is that your stories, the beliefs that you have, are out of alignment with the results you want. So in order to get that whole 100% momentum forward, get your whole untapped potential of your brain, I want 100% of your mind working for you. I want to make sure your beliefs, your stories, your consistent feelings and thoughts are going to be in alignment with the actions you want to take that will get you the results, right? So you got to think about all your habits, all your patterns, all your memories, all your self-talk here in order for this to work. So remember I talked before about constantly planting seeds? Well, this is where this really starts to happen. So as you work through those reflection questions, that work that I talked about before, you're going to notice some seeds that potentially you were watering and maybe even over nurturing, giving them a whole lot of fertilizer, giving them a whole lot of focus, giving them a whole lot of energy, that you don't really want them to sprout. But while you're giving them all that nurturing, they're going to keep growing anyway. So right now is the moment for you to weed those seeds out and replant the seeds that you want. And we do those through repetition. So your subconscious mind, just like my subconscious mind, learns through rhythm, repetition, and rhyme. Now, that's a great one to remember. Your subconscious mind learns through rhythm, repetition, and rhyme. So in order to shift and water and nurture the thoughts and the beliefs that we want, that are in alignment with the results we want, you're going to need to do some repetition, because you got the old ones because you repeated them enough times. So now we've got to do that again. So you can do that through any number of ways. You can use affirmations, you can use rewriting stories and taking some time. That's a process that I do with my clients inside the Human-Centered Business. There's subliminal messages out there. You can do meditations. You can use hypnosis. There's all sorts of repetitious programming that you can use for your subconscious mind. But I'm going to give you a framework today for affirmations. So if you think about what you're nourishing, it's about what you're focusing on and what you're giving energy to. Now, for some of us, that might be what we're talking about with friends and family. For some of us, this might be our internal self-talk. Either way, whether it's internal or external, it's really important, because the stories that you keep telling and keep repeating will keep showing up. So, for example, if you're consistently telling the story of, I'm not making enough sales, then you are consistently going to grow more months of not making enough sales. And if that's your challenge, that's not what we want for you in 2022. If you and your partner aren't getting on and he doesn't get it and you're fighting all the time, you're going to attract and grow more fighting, less understanding of what you're trying to do and what you're trying to achieve, both in your life and in your business. This one I come across all the time with my small business owners. My staff never do what I want them to do. It's so hard to get good staff. I'm like, guess what? You're going to have more staff not doing the job and even worse applicants for the job, because that's your belief around it. And so you're going to filter out any of the good that was coming and make it disappear and never have enough time. Obviously, in my space, I see lots of this. If you're telling yourself, I never have enough time, I never get through my to-do list, guess what? More work's going to show up, more tasks going to take up more of your time. And the last one was something, I added this in after COVID last time, and I think it's something that we saw a lot of when we were early on in business, is like my competitors are always getting all the support and I don't get anything. They're getting funding, they're getting the opportunity to do PR, they're getting, my competitors are getting something that I'm not getting. And so if you're focusing and talking about that all the time and thinking about that all the time, guess what's happening? You're creating more support for them and less support for you. So what I want to do is give you a reframe to a place to make sure that you're nourishing the right things. So if you're focusing on, I am increasing my sales on a daily basis and money comes easily to me now. More abundance, more sales opportunities are coming your way. Thinking about your partner, we have our differences, but I love them and we choose to work things out, right? You're going to get more understanding, more love, more appreciation. This reframe here is one of my favorite affirmations if you're building a team. My team are doing the best they can with what they know, and they choose to grow and learn daily as they add massive value to my business. People are doing the best they can with what they know right now, and when they know better, they'll do better, right? And the same is true of you, but you've got to give that grace to the people that you're working with as well, all right? So they're going to have way more clarity, the job's going to get done the way you want them to be done, and they're going to learn and grow into that role. I choose to spend my time deliberately on the things that grow my business and get me abundant results. So I'm being really deliberate about the language here because it really matters. And this will give us more instances where you have space and time to take up great opportunities, or maybe just to rest before the next great opportunity comes along. And if we're celebrating other people's success, then we're going to see more success and more support for ourselves. So if you need to focus on loving on your competitors, getting great success, because where somebody else is succeeding, there is space for you to succeed too. To tap into this other 95%, there's some things that you really need to understand about those thoughts, feelings, and beliefs in terms of your subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind takes everything really literally and does not process the negatives. So it's really easy for us to say things like, I don't want to be broke anymore, or I don't want to feel stressed, or I don't want to be rushed, or I don't want to be busy. But they don't hear, the subconscious mind doesn't process those negative pieces well. So what it hears there is, be more broke, be more busy, be more stressed. So you really have to be deliberate in making sure that instead of saying, I don't want to be stressed, say how you really want to feel. I want to feel calm and centered and grounded and vibrant and passionate. You want to make sure that you're really wording it well. If you don't want to be broke anymore, what do you want to be? I want to be wealthy. I want to be financially secure. I want to be financially free. Be really deliberate about your language. Your subconscious is a bit like humans. It takes the path of least resistance, right? So make sure you're clear about what you want, because if you just tell it you want more sales, it will go out and get you more sales, but just that. So that might mean one more sale or $10 more or $100 more, maybe not the $1,000, $100,000, $1 million worth more that you're looking at. It goes for the easiest route. Your subconscious mind takes everything personally. It does not understand there are other human beings out there. So you need to be really careful about what you're putting in. Inside our programs, we talk about what are your circles of influence. So What are you saying about the people that you're hanging around with? And what are the inputs coming in? What are they saying about other people? Because you're hanging around people that are talking negatively about other people in any way, shape, or form, your brain takes that and processes like it's talking about you. So be really deliberate about the conversations that you're listening to. What news, what social media, what learning, what audio books, because you want to make sure that your brain's not taking any of that and applying it to you. Like I said, it needs repetition for these beliefs and these habits to be installed. And we see all this science around about habits taking anywhere from 21 days to 184 or something. Like, it just depends on what habit, where it fits in, why you're doing the habit. The time that it takes is not something that we can definitively say it takes this long or that long, but we do know it needs repetition. So coming back to that subconscious mind learns from rhythm, repetition, and rhyme. If you can put those three things in, you'll be away. It's why things like rote learning times tables, like even now I'm 40 and I can still snap to my times table really, really quickly, because it was repetition all the way through school. Your subconscious mind wants to serve you, but it only follows really clear orders. So if you're not being clear, if you don't have complete clarity over what you want, it's another one I see a lot with business owners. If you don't know exactly what you want for 2022, it's going to be really hard for your subconscious mind to help you get there. It's just going to be like, I don't know if she wants to go left or right, so I'm just going to stand still because I'm not sure. Your subconscious mind controls and maintains all your perceptions, and it's filtered through your RAS by your beliefs. As I said, your beliefs are so important. You will never consistently take action. You might take a little bit of action for a little bit of time, but you won't consistently take action if your beliefs are not in alignment with the thing that you want to get. Okay? And the reason for that is your RAS was there to keep you safe. And the way that it keeps you safe is it keeps you in alignment with what you believe. Otherwise, you're stupid, or, back in the days when we were just surviving, it wasn't about being stupid, it was about being eaten by something else or chewing on the wrong berry and you were going to end up dead. So the RAS is there about keeping you safe. This part of your mind is programmed to continuously seek more and look for growth. So remember to celebrate when you do get wins, because it will naturally go looking for more of that if you take the time to create that. Your subconscious mind loves symbols and it's very imaginative. In fact, that whole ability to vision and see in your mind's eye the picture of where you're going to be, that is invaluable to your subconscious mind. It gives it really clear direction of where you're going. So make sure you're using beautiful symbols and using your imagination to really get you to the place where you want to be. And your subconscious mind preserves and runs the body. So if you have any negative connotations to anything, so, this person's bad, selling's bad, money is evil, I'm not good enough to do that, or I'm not good enough to do that thing, or, bit of imposter syndrome, then you're not going to be allowed to do any of those things, because all of those things to your brain now sound dangerous. And it's your subconscious mind's job, basically, to keep you safe. And so it won't let you go near anything that you perceive as dangerous. And in 2021, that isn't a saber-toothed tiger or the clan across the road who's going to steal you and take you back to your cave. It's failure, it's looking silly, it's doing something and it not going perfectly to plan, it's worrying about what other people think. It preserves you from those things and keeping you safe from those things, and that will keep us stuck. The other thing that's really important to understand is, even with really great beliefs, we still need to have positive and resourceful emotions. So we talked about the stories part, but we also have our thoughts and feelings. And so the stories, the beliefs, are going to really help. The affirmation is going to really help with the way that we think. But we also want to be looking at, what are the emotions I want to consistently feel? And we've all heard that stress reduces the amount of access to our brain that we have by about half. So it's not the only thing. Like when we're angry, when we're frustrated, when we're distressed in any way, shape, or form, we have less access to our brain than if we're feeling calm, if we're feeling positive, if we're feeling excited, if we're feeling loving. We're able to access more of the brain. And all of this is about going, if we're walking around only accessing 5%, then our ability to create something amazing in terms of our life and business is reduced. If we're accessing 95% or 100%, we're going to get so much more out of our life and business. So making sure that we're not cutting that in half again is really important. So what are the emotions you want to consistently feel in 2022? Do you want to feel validated? Do you want to feel dauntless? Do you want to feel appreciated? Do you want to feel attentive? I don't know what it is you want to feel, but figure it out and go forward from there, because once you work out how you want to feel, you can deliberately start to cultivate that emotion on a day-to-day basis that will help you move consistently in the direction of where you want to be. The other piece of alignment is recognizing that life is like this big old buffet, right? I know in COVID times we're doing a lot less buffet eating than we were before, but the buffet of life is always there, and it's really, really to look at that whole buffet and go, I need to put it all on my plate right now because it might disappear and it might go away. Well, that's just not true. It is like a buffet. They're going to refill it. There's amazing chefs out the back at the buffet of life, and they're bringing out these opportunities over and over again. Because if you see all the opportunities in life and in business, and when you're successful, then more and more opportunities come your way. And so you're like, oh, let's do them all right now. That is a really quick way to create overwhelm. It's going to make you busy, and busy is definitely not the goal. And it also creates lots of opportunity for misalignment. And often that misalignment, which you might be talking about as self-sabotage, shows up in the form of procrastination. It stops us having that momentum forward. So this process of aligning is going to definitely involve you saying no to some parts of life right now. It's not no forever, it's just no for right now. And you can bring them back in and add them back in later. So Sarah, how do I choose? There's so many options and I've got no idea where I want to go. So you need to decide on your filters for what are the things that you're going to focus on and align with for 2022. So for me, when I'm working with my clients inside my program, we use two major filters. The first one for me is, what are your highest life priorities for this chapter right now? It's different for all of us. 25-year-old Sarah and 40-year-old Sarah had different highest life priorities, I can assure you. I didn't quite live on a beach that looked like that picture up there, but I was close when I was 25. And now at 40, I still live not too far from the beach. It's just the water's not quite as warm. But my highest life priorities are different. Back then I wasn't married, I didn't have a daughter. We had a business, but we didn't have the types of businesses we've got right now. So we didn't have a team and those sorts of things. So my highest life priorities have shifted. The other thing is that I use to filter through what I want to work on, what I want to align with in 2022 is, where do I want to be 10 years from now? I'm going to talk a bit more about that because I can almost hear some of you freaking out from the other side of the computer. So highest life priorities. How do you know what your highest life priorities are? Well, here's the thing. These are the things that you couldn't live without. So like if I said, I'm going to take your children or your partner or your business away from you right now, and you would be like, no, God, no, you can't take those. But if I took away a community job, you could still live with it. So think about the things that if you only got to do these 3 to 5 items every week, that it would make the week amazing. And those are your highest life priorities. Now, if you're still confused by that, I have a process that I can share with you. I've got a copy of a free copy of my book, The Off Switch, that for anyone that's here on Masterclass or anyone that's watching the replay that can come along and get a copy of that. So let me know. You can just, how about if you comment switch, I'll reach out to you off the comments and come back to you and get a copy of that for you. And there's actually a whole process that will allow you to work out what matters most to you. I suggest you spend some time thinking about what's the life I would achieve. And sometimes, particularly with women, we get really, really caught up in all the different things that are required from other people. So I want you to think about getting on a boat and going out to your private island and pretending that nobody in your world exists, just for a moment. Your decisions and your choices are not going to impact anyone in a positive or a negative way. What would you do? Don't overthink this. I can see some of you going, oh, but don't overthink it. It doesn't have to be possible or realistic, and you don't need to know how to get this done. I just want you to go, if I was on a private island and nobody in the world exists, what would I do? Some of you might go, I'll set up camp on this island and stay here, and that's okay too. But I want you to think about what would you do if nobody was impacted by what you did, because we're so busy sculpting our decisions to everybody else all the time. I think this is a really great way just to have us think about, if anything were possible and nobody was hurt by my decisions, what would I actually do? And human nature, and I'm not sure exactly whose this quote is, it's been attributed to a number of different people, but the reality is, as human beings, we really overestimate what we can do in 12 months, which is why we often feel so unfulfilled, because we haven't ticked off all the goals that we said we were going to tick off, and underestimate what we can do in 30 to 40 years. So to decide what you want to do in 2022, you need to think about where you want to be in 2032. Because the seeds for 2032 start now. So what are you planting? If you're struggling to see 10 years from now, I want you to think about these things. If you could be anything you wanted, what would you be? I remember someone asking me this question and me going, without even thinking, I'm going to be a business coach. It was quite some years ago. And I remember reflecting on that the other day and going, wow, that's pretty cool. Like literally, it's about understanding where you want to go, and then you can make it happen. If you could do anything you wanted, what would you do? You could have anything you wanted, what would you have? If you had $1 billion, what would you spend it on or do with it? What would you do with unlimited wishes? What would you wish for? And then the second thing you could try is, I want you to go, if you, like me, you're 40, I want you to go, what have I achieved since I was 30? So between when I was 30 and 40, what have I done? Where have I been? What have I created? What places have I been to? What people have I met? What relationships have I created? Write it all down, every single bit. You're going to need lots of pieces of paper, because you've done a lot in the last 10 years, I can assure you. And the reason I suggest you do that is because it will give you some perspective on what you can achieve in the next 10 years, given you're wiser and you have a whole lot more skills and tools right now. I certainly do. I'm a much wiser version than I was at 30, at 40. And regardless of what your 10-year life has been like, what journey you've been on, you've learned some things, you've got some new things to take into the next 10 years. So there's every chance you're going to achieve more, quicker, faster, with less hard work. And the last step is that we need to now integrate. So we've reflected on the lessons. We've let go of the things that we don't want to take into 2022. Now, and if you want a process for that, that's something we do inside my programs. So if that's something that's interesting to you, make sure you reach out and let me know. Because you want to let go of it. You don't want to be dragging any of this stuff into 2022. And get the lessons and really commit to learning those lessons. Secondly, we want to take some time to do some alignment. Like, what are the seeds I want to plant? What are the beliefs I need to have? What are the affirmations I need to have that will align me up, my brain, my subconscious brain, with the results I actually want to get? And we have to think about aligning those results with What are my highest life priorities, and what do I want my life and my business to look like 10 years from now? And so we've done all of those things, and now it's how do we apply that and actually make that happen? So for me, this is where the magic happens. This is how we build a business with you at the center of it. And lots of people talk about having a plan. You need a strategic plan, and you need a marketing plan, and you need an action plan. Having a plan itself has actually got zero value. The actual value of a plan comes out of two things. The first is the work that you do to create the plan. So the thinking, the reflection, the deliberate getting of clarity of what you actually want and how that fits into the next time frame that you're working on. And then the second piece of the plan is the work that you're going to do to execute on the plan and fine tune it and continue to bring yourself back in alignment with the vision you want for your life and your business. So I say it again, this is where the magic happens, because nothing works unless you work it. So most plans, they don't work because they're not aligned. But this plan really has the potential to work for you because you've aligned between your subconscious mind, your beliefs, your thoughts, your feelings, the emotions you want to have in 2022, and the results you want to get. And now it's all about just taking the actions that get you there. So if you take this aligned plan and execute on it, magic's going to happen for you. You've got all the components. You've uncovered the stories that weren't serving you, the lessons, the mistakes that you were talking about and you were telling over and over again. You've let go of those. You're going to let go of those negative meetings and just take the learning piece of that forward, recognizing that it's what's going to propel you forward. In alignment, you've started to talk about creating the language that really serves you, and you understand that repetition is the key to reprogramming your beliefs and the filters you see your world through. And you know that this is really important because if your filters are out of alignment with the results you want, you're never going to get there. Misalignment rather than self-sabotage is what stops us getting to our goals. We've talked about our thoughts and feelings. We've talked about what consistent feelings we had in 2021. And we've decided to let go of those events that had those unresourceful emotions attached to them. That's that leaving that stuff back in 2021 and taking purely the learnings from it, which is exciting. That's where the growth, the magic's going to happen for you. And you've chosen an emotion, or maybe 5. You might have seen that beautiful color of emotion and got, I want to have more than just one emotion, Sarah, in 2022. And you're going to take those emotions you're going to consistently embrace in 2022. And you've understood how you can potentially use subliminal messages, meditations, and hypnosis to support positive repetitious thoughts and feelings. And not just the subliminal, meditative hypnosis sort of things. You're also starting to understand how your social media impacts it, what you read, those sorts of things are going to impact it as well. And you've decided what you want to create, right? So you've reflected on what you achieved and created in 2021. You've had a little bit of a look at what you didn't get done in 2021 and assessed whether, does it still actually need to be done, or is it not what's in alignment with what you want anymore for 2022? You've figured out what the 3 to 5 things are that matter most to you in your life, and you've got clear vision of how you want those parts of your life to look in 10 years from now, right? Just for this chapter. We can go back to the buffet of life and pick up some different things later on, but just for this chapter, I want you to keep it nice and focused. More than 3 to 5, your poor old brain can't focus, and you get too splintered and you don't get any momentum forward. And Sarah, what am I going to do with all of that? I know the beliefs I want to have. I've got some thoughts and some affirmations that I want to repeat. And I know how I want to feel. I want to feel loved and centered and grounded. And I want to feel successful. And I know what that looks like for me now. You got to take some action. And not only that, we don't want to do this the hard way. We want to do it the easy way. So we want to make sure we're always working on what makes everything else easier. So I want to talk about dominoes randomly for a moment and think about how dominoes work. And so if you look at the science of this, a domino can knock over a domino that's about 1.5 times larger than itself. And so if you think about putting a whole lot of dominoes in a row, a very small shift can actually knock over something really big very, very quickly, right? So you can start with just a tiny little push and it gets massive momentum very, very quickly, because we want to do this the easy way. So in order to do this, I want you to pick just 3 goals, just 3 things that you're going to work on in 2022. These are what we call our domino goals. So the way that we decide which things we want to do in order to create the life and the business that we want over the next 10 years is we want to think about which 3 goals are most important to you, make everything else easier. Maybe they open a whole lot of other opportunities for you. Or my favorite one is that these goals are the ones that will knock down lots of other smaller goals. So if you've got any idea what these are, do it now. Drop your domino goals in the comments below. And I'm going to share with you my 3 from 2021, because I haven't worked out what 2022 is. That's what I'll be doing while I'm down here. Oh no, I don't have them there. I tell lies. Drop them in the comments below. So I just want to talk a little bit about making your goals grow. Like, how do we make sure that they're really nice and aligned? So we want to make sure that we're creating goals from abundance, love, joy, and fulfillment, because goals created from there will be far more sustainable and be a lot more fun along the way. So think about the alignment that you want to have. So get away from those beliefs that are about scarcity, fear, comparison, right? Or where you have to, where you feel pressured to do it. I have to do this because of I'm a mum, I'm a partner, I'm whatever. I want to do this to keep up with the Joneses. That if I have this, someone else can't have it. We want to get away from that and look at there's success and abundance for everyone. That in giving and sharing there's joy, all those sorts of other things. Believe my goals truly make me happy and serve the way I want to live. Awesome, Christy. You're going to be published in another book and grow your business. That's fantastic. So I want to make sure and support disadvantaged communities. Fantastic. So I love those goals. I think they're super awesome. You can have whatever you want, but I want to make sure that you write down your goals in a way that is specific enough that your subconscious is not going to get lost along the way. So I want to make sure it's really clear. I want to make sure it's measurable. So which disadvantaged community are you going to support? And in what way? Make sure it's exciting to you. They sound exciting to me, Christy, so that's awesome. Make sure you believe it's possible, and make sure it moves you towards what you do want, not away from what you don't want. Remember how we talked about the language of being not stressed, not broke? We want it to move towards where we want to be. It's nice to know we don't want to be, but you got to flip it and make sure we have that nice positive actions. And we want to write it as if it's already happened. So I'm a multiple best-selling author. Maybe it's it's that I have donated $10,000 to a specific community group. So make sure we're really exciting. Okay, awesome. Women in domestic violence situations to live and create a life and relationships that are empowering. Awesome. I love that. So that's super specific. There's no way your subconscious is wiggling out of that one. So we want to talk about it like it's already happened, like it's already done. We want to be grateful, or sometimes I think gratefulness can be a little bit like, oh, thank goodness I'm not over there. So maybe with appreciation. And instead of saying I want or I will, which leaves your goal hanging out there in the future, I want you to use I have and I am. So for example, these were my domino goals for 2021. And this is how I said them. I said, thank you for the 7-figure sale of the Rocket Venture cruise business. I have achieved, and then a very specific number, $556,521 income year in my leveraged coaching business. Thank you. And thank you for my fulfilling, passionate, happy, playful, and deeply loving relationship with Johnny. So those 3 things make everything else easier for us in 2021. Now, not all of those are completely ticked off yet. The third one is done, which is amazing. I have a fabulous relationship with my husband, and we've worked really hard on that, which is cool. Not quite at those income year goals yet, but I'm really close. I'm scooping in on them, and I've got, a couple more months to get there. And we haven't quite managed the sale of the Rock Adventure Cruise business yet, but we've got some really nice, interesting leads, and so watch this space. But all three of those goals, when I set them about this time last year, were the things that were going to make everything else easier for me. They're really specific. I know exactly how I want to feel in some cases. I know exactly how it looks. I can visualize all three of them really clearly, and there's no way my subconscious is wiggling out of those, because they're already said, like they're already done, and there is a lot of appreciation in my goals as well. And then each week I want you to book your $1 million meeting. So I want you to book a meeting with yourself for just 1 hour, and in that hour I want you to do the same process. I want you to reflect, I want you to align, I want you to plan for the week ahead, so that on Monday you just get up and do what that calendar says. And I want you to reflect, align, and plan in alignment with the life that you want to create, in alignment with those dominoes that you've just said are the things that will push everything else over. Because if we don't take some time to stop and design and build the life, and more specifically the business that you want, sooner or later you're going to be spending all of your time dealing with a life and a business you didn't want. And I am incredibly passionate about taking this time to reflect and align and integrate what we want out of our lives and our businesses, purely because I got to a place where I was spending all of my time dealing with a life and a business that I didn't want. Life's going to happen one way or another, but you get to choose, is it by design or by default? And from where I'm sitting, by design is way better. I don't want average or normal. I don't want the default version of my life and my business. I want the one that I very carefully reflected on and designed so that I can go and have a life that fills me up, not what society tells me I should have, not what my parents said success looked like, not what someone else says success looks like, but purely what I want out of my life, what my family wants out of their lives. And I want to build a business that serves that. So take the time to create a life that happens by design, because when I stopped letting life just happen to me and letting it buffer me around and saying I didn't have the ability to choose, and I started deliberately deciding, things got better. And once I started pushing that little snowball down the hill, it got some momentum, and it got some big momentum, and very quickly my ideal life in weeks started to show up. So if you're watching this, you're either watching it live, thank you so much for coming along. Those of you that are watching live, those of you that are watching the replay, thank you as well. If you're looking at this thinking, oh my goodness, I want to do this, and I'm pretty excited about 2022 and what I want to achieve, and thinking, you know what, I'm probably going to need a better team around me.